So what I'm gonna
You're
have.
live.
I am live. All right.
Oh, that light.
Well, see, here's now the thing is share. Okay, share this on Facebook or not.
Yeah, you go copy link, and then you can put it on Facebook.
I don't want to exit
Can you
this
just
thing.
send that link to me via text message and I can post it?
Yeah, but where am I gonna send it? Because what is
You
the
click
link?
share
To messages.
messages.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll do that to you real quick. So yeah, go ahead and we'll post that. 22%. God.
You know what's hard? Where are comments on this? Do they show up on the side?
That's the thing is well,
Copy.
show live chat messages. It says it's gonna show them, but I have no idea
Okay,
where they're gonna
nobody's
show it.
chatting.
That's fine. Yeah, since
all.
there's nobody here technically yet.
I'm gonna go to yours.
Yeah, post it on there. Okay.
Which one are you commenting on? Oh, I see this one.
Yeah. Okay. Computers.
Alright, post it on mine too.
Okay.
Just kidding. We are here.
This is I can't believe it. And the audio. I mean, I'm actually less concerned about the video, but like when we start grabbing the everything for the stream. On the Windows shakes fist. That's correct.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
think
Josh,
people know where it is.
Josh is here. All right, good.
Okay.
So we just pay a little more attention. It's gonna be down here. That's really fine. We're on my phone because Windows was like, yeah, this is
23%.
23% of the first part of the update. No, the second part of the update because it downloads the update to say, okay,
It's
now
like
we're
when
ready
you
to
do
install
that on your
updates.
phone.
I know it's such a thing.
Technology.
Which is yeah, I know, old and jaded.
I know.
What sucks too is we're in the middle of like, a very good flow. And
I think I remember what I was going to say because I said it to you.
you did say it to me.
Yeah.
I want to get everybody back. So I think let's wait a second to see if a couple more people will pop in and say hi to us, see how many people show back up. Because right now I believe we have just Josh, which is great. And I just want to hang out with Josh. But we had like 9 people in there earlier. And so we'll...
2 people.
We'll see. Yeah, anybody who comes back in the room, let us know. Though the only people who can hear that are the people in the room. So I mean, that message is... right. Yeah.
That's funny.
I think it's...
Oh, it's 24% now.
Oh, good.
Caca.
Well,
I made a cake today.
yeah, that's true. You did. So,
Yeah, with my mom.
you know what? I made one with my mom. No, I'm just kidding.
I did. I had a good time.
That's true. You had fun.
Yeah.
Um.
We made cake and we watched.
Okay, cool. So Ray is here as well. Okay, very good. So we have Josh, Ray. I'll tell Marie at least. Cool. And we had, I know, a couple of your, I think your friends had popped in.
Oh, I have no idea.
Sup, dog? Hey, Ramses is here. Okay, cool.
I'll text my mom. She was watching.
Your mom. We had Baby Girl. We had
I don't know who that is.
like Kitsune. Oh, Marie. Okay. Was there? Okay, so we had a handful of people. Yeah, I'm not sure offhand who was here, and I feel really bad because I don't want people to think that we're ditching the show.
No,
You know, because we were having a good conversation.
Yeah.
It was good.
If I knew who those handles belonged to, I would let them know, but I don't.
Yeah. What about these handles?
You don't have handles.
That is untrue.
Okay, but you know, if anybody bends over and like grabs at themselves, like when you stand up straight, like you do.
Oh,
not.
I do. I
No.
absolutely do. I'm okay with that, but they're there. They are absolutely
I'm
there.
gonna fix my onesie.
Oh. Good. Okay. Well, anyway, we were in the middle of a conversation regarding people and the difficulties of expending your energy
Yeah.
to folks. That's rough.
Yeah, what I was gonna say
Yes, yes.
before we died was
Before the computer died.
when you're the kind of person that always says yes, sometimes the reason that you don't want to say no is because really is because you're afraid that someone will be angry at you for saying no,
Right.
and that retaliation would be worse than just you sucking it up and dealing with doing it.
Right.
When that's messed up. But the thing is, because it's happened, like that's why I think that way. That's why you think that way. Because somebody's gotten mad when we couldn't do what they needed.
Right.
And so it like causes kind of a conditioning in ourselves that makes us not want to say no or feel like we can't say no sometimes. Like Like, we're the type of people that want to say yes all the time, but then sometimes we feel obligated into saying yes.
Right.
And that's when we give of ourselves when we didn't really have it to give.
Mm-hmm.
And another important thing, and I told you, was
yeah, we had a great conversation while the computer was restarting and nobody could hear us.
Yeah.
A lot of really great information came out.
yeah, no, saying no is a fluid boundary. Like, it's not like you commit yourself to not doing that thing for the rest of your life just because you can't do it right now.
Sure.
Or like if a friend asks you for help or to hang out and you say you can't, it doesn't mean that you can't ever. It just means that you can't right now.
Right.
And that saying no doesn't like commit you to no for the, like, it's not a blood contract. I will never help you again. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. It's just that right now it's not a possibility.
Correct.
And in general, why we always said boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
boundaries of all kinds. I think it's actually really detrimental to oneself to try and set like walls around your life.
Absolutes can be really damaging because as we grow and change, so can those conditions.
Boundaries are flexible. Boundaries
Sure.
are fluid, and like what your boundary needs to be right now may not be what it is in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. And we need to accept that about ourselves the same way we need to accept that about other people.
Right.
Where like where they're at a certain point in time may not be where they're at in a year, and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like and how that relates to you can change throughout that process as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for us to be caring and patient with the
to be willing
people
to
that we
grow
encounter.
and to, change accordingly, and for people to understand that as well too. Is if maybe I can't do it right now or in a month or a year, but at some point I might still be capable. So just give me that time and patience, sort of like that allowance of understanding that somebody may not be where you want them to be. That doesn't mean that they don't want to be there, but they just can't. They don't have the capacity at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because oftentimes, I mean, I want to extend myself to as many people as possible. I want to do as many of these things for friends as possible. But sometimes it's asking a lot, and not being there is simply something that I need to be understood when it happens. Can you actually do me one favor?
Yeah.
Can you go onto the Blue Lady Podcast page, and underneath the post...
I'll repost it. Okay.
Blue
Lady Podcast.
Yeah, go ahead and post this new link, because we're having to jump through a bunch of hoops because I'm not good at updating my computer. I thought I had it set to auto update, and
It's funny.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm also almost never on the computer, so.
What were you saying before you said this?
Something amazing, something really great, something really powerful.
I get distracted.
No, you're fine. We were just talking about the fluidity of boundaries, sort of wrapping that commentary up, or allowing ourselves to change.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm about to be finally 6 months seizure free.
Yes.
And the reason that I relapsed was heavily to do with not being able to say no to people, and there being so many, and not just not being able, like from my standpoint, but like people not accepting no as an answer, and me spreading myself so thin that I got so sick that I couldn't function anymore. Like my whole life just fell apart underneath me. Like I couldn't work, I couldn't drive, I can't, currently I guess can't work, can't drive. I'm about to be able to again, and I feel like it really taught me a lesson about like stress management in that sense, like that the kind of time, like you said in the thing, our time is our currency,
right?
And it's possible to go bankrupt.
I mean, the terminology literally pay attention. You are paying, you are expending, you
spend time.
Correct.
Like, that's how we talk about it.
To spend time.
And
it sounds like a colloquial kind of like phrase. I worry I put a lot of pressure on you, and I'm sorry for that. I was going through my own hard times and grabbing for any spoons I could. Don't apologize to me.
No.
They don't apologize at all for reaching out, and you didn't put pressure on me. Oftentimes what I will do is if I don't have the ability to do something, I simply won't do it. What I need to get better at is communicating that I don't have the energy, but I'm also kind of absent-minded, so it's difficult for me sometimes to remember that I haven't communicated that clearly to everybody. And that's something that I very much want to work on, is being able to communicate it more clearly. But I'm getting better about not expending it. I just need people to know that I've, reached that point.
And I got really bitter about this a couple months ago, 6 months or so maybe a while ago, and I was really cranky a lot because I don't know a way to fix this either, but I had encountered a lot of people being really frustrated or angry at me from not being able to commit in a certain way to what they thought our friendship should be. And I felt really irritated about having to tell people what was going on, like to justify myself. Like, I'm just busy or I'm going through a hard time wasn't enough. Like, people felt like they needed to know all of the nitty-gritty details so they could evaluate about whether or not it was a good excuse.
Right.
And I remember a lot of times being like, it's none of your goddamn
They
business.
wanted to be in charge of,
I shouldn't have to explain myself.
Right.
Like, I understand that it's polite to explain yourself, but I can't should be enough.
It's a courtesy that if you can afford it is great, but if it doesn't happen, you have to be understanding that sometimes people are simply on their own spectrum, in their own ecosystem of mental energy. They're doing something that you simply cannot see. And
It said hi.
Yeah, my computer said hello. We've got some updates for your PC. Well, thank you. That's perfect timing. Right in the middle of the podcast.
This might take several minutes.
Not 3 a.m. when everybody's, trying to go to bed, but the middle of us trying to do something. Perfect timing.
Yeah, I remember also, like, when I left the university, I took what was called a medical absence, or like a medical withdrawal. And I had doctor's notes and all that kind of stuff. It was like, you cannot do this anymore. Like, you're spent. You're going to kill yourself if you keep going.
Yeah.
And I had all of that very official paperwork, all of everything, ready for the people at NMSU to see, and my bosses and my colleagues and everybody, like, to know what was going on. And there was still this expectancy that, like, I needed to justify, like, really explain to them what medically was happening with me so that they could evaluate whether or not it was a good enough reason for me to leave. And I was told at one point that, like, by my boss, that he was disappointed in me. And it's like, for having epilepsy? What? Like, yeah.
Pretty disappointing that you would have the nerve.
Yeah, the nerve to have a disease.
Yeah, some sort of condition that causes you to.
But I think that, like, that kind of mentality causes the type of people that we are, that want to give of ourselves to people. When we're received that way by someone, I think it tells us, like, oh, I'm not allowed to take care of myself. I'm not allowed to be struggling or to be sick or to, like, be
someone else's need is greater.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't provide for me what I need, you need to figure it out no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And that can be a very big demand. And, sometimes people are chronically late. Sometimes people stay up too often and they sleep in and they're not responsible. Sometimes you drink too much the night before and you have hangovers. There are things that you can,
there's nothing wrong with any of those things. Like, it's called being a fucking human. Like,
I mean, it depends on
you perfect?
The responsibility that you've signed up for with somebody. Because if you've committed to sign up for a responsibility, that's one thing. Yeah. But then there's also, there's two types of conditions. Either something you cannot help and then something that's behavior that is possible to change. And sometimes there are simply things that you cannot change.
So here's what's tricky for me on this. Because I get what you're saying, but I think that kind of, like, this is okay, but this isn't okay, is what allows people to say, tell me all the details of what you're doing so I can evaluate whether or not it's okay for you to do that.
Sure.
And that's the same kind of mindset that informs people like my old boss that says, like, well, I'll decide if this is your fault or not. Like, if you could really change this. And the fact was I couldn't. But, like, there is a huge... I think market of the way people think that, like, some things are not acceptable, and I need to know if this was possible for you to change. And a lot of it, like, the idea was that because I'd allowed myself to get so stressed out that I couldn't manage that correctly, that I got sick, that it was my fault, and I could have not done that. And the fact is that's not true.
Sure.
Like, so I think it's a very slippery slope. We have to be very careful about saying that some things are okay and some things are not. The fact is life happens, people are humans, and life is complicated. Also, your old boss is an asshole. That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That is verifiably correct.
Work-life balance is so important to me. I learned that after severely burning out over a number of years, working 60-plus hour weeks, having health issues come up, and unfortunately, I think it just gives us part of the message and then it disappears now that we're on the phone. You know what? I'm actually going to see if we're going to try this. And we're still going to continue to stream from here. However, we're going to do so and see if the comments will pop up here from this.
Is he going to try and play the sound?
I can turn that off.
Oh, okay. But,
let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think we have to be careful sometimes when we say, like, one thing is okay, but possibly these other things aren't, when there's not really a clear criteria, and it's based on whether, like, your evaluation about someone else's, what their priorities should be, or what their, like, you know what I mean?
I guess it depends, because what it comes down to, and this is things that I've fired people for.
Yeah.
if you decide to show up to the store late because you don't want to be responsible, if you decide to sleep in, or if you decide to come to the store hungover, you don't need to work for me. You know, those are decisions. You know, and that's hard because like if my you know, time that I've decided to pay you for and you know put forth the effort to even hire you is not worth you being there for, okay, then you know, like you probably
Yeah.
don't need to work for me. But if I also found out that somebody had some sort of condition, it would never need to be justified to me. If
Yeah.
somebody disclosed entirely in
Mm-hmm.
full, hey, here are things that you need to be aware of, that's enough. That's done.
Yeah,
Like that would
I
be
guess
fine.
because when I think about my situation with my employment, there was a lot of was a with
Wow.
that's
Okay. Now we can see it.
okay. Yeah, there was a lot of that same kind of mentality that's like, if you are not, oh, I don't know, like, like I committed to the responsibility of my job.
Sure.
You know, I signed a contract and everything. That was my
Right.
and I couldn't ultimately um, keep that up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think there was still like people felt like they had the right to evaluate whether or not my excuse was acceptable. So I posed this to you,
Sure.
and pretending that you don't know about what I've just said to you.
Okay.
Because this happened a couple times right before I left fully. Like I was having seizures a lot, and I would sometimes like have a seizure at night and not realize, because I wouldn't remember or anything, and it would sort of fall asleep afterwards, and then not have an alarm set or like be ready to go in the morning, and then like 8:30 comes around and I was supposed to be there at 6, and I send a message to my trauma teachers like, I have no idea where I am, I don't know what's going on, like I've had a seizure, I'll be there as soon as I can.
Yeah.
But that like that lateness and that period of time of not knowing or being able to get a hold of me, which is why I couldn't live alone. I should
Sure.
have lived alone.
Sure.
But like that, I still had committed to be there, but then didn't and couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was like, well, you should always have this set on your phone, or you should always be ready to do this. It's like, but like there were a ton, I got heavily berated with
Mm-hmm.
this is your faults, when I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So you said you didn't set an alarm. I'm just trying to make sure I understand all conditions that you've.
Yeah, so
you're
I
handing
had to give up, or had to get up at different times every day.
Okay.
And so I would set my alarm the night before I went to bed.
Sure.
Like I would set it the time I knew whether, depending on whether or not I showered the night before, if I was
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, like I would always set it. And so there were some times where I would have seizures in the evening or at night.
Okay, and
and
for
thus
free
the
at that
alarm
point.
wouldn't get set.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So had you disclosed to me at some point that seizures are something that could
Yeah.
happen,
absolutely.
then
Yeah, and
taking that into account, absolutely. And I mean, all you really need to do is like during like a hiring process, and this is say this is a condition that is to be, you know,
so
that.
it wasn't when I was hired. I was not relapsed when I was hired.
Okay.
It happened while I was working.
Okay.
And
And you disclosed all that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing, is basically just communicating to me. Because if somebody came to me and said, hey, conditions have changed, this is now part of it, I'd say okay, and leave it at that. Because I don't want somebody to be held to be like, you know, somebody could use it as an excuse as to, you know, like, I don't really have seizures, or I didn't actually have a seizure, so I'm going to be late, and use that as an excuse. But I wouldn't, like,
assume that
I
of
wouldn't
people.
default
so that's
into
what
thinking.
happened to me a lot.
I bet.
Is there was
Yeah.
like the assumptions that what I was going through or what I was struggling with or what I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
accomplish was based upon like I was sort of I have epilepsy as like a
Right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
but-
default to thinking somebody is trying to manipulate me. That would not be my first thought.
Yeah, and that, I think I was kind of compassionate about that at first. Like while being really offended and frustrated by it, like I let it kind of go. But once I started like bringing in doctor's notes and trying to quit because of medically and have that be what my record showed,
Sure.
as opposed to like I just quit because I couldn't hack it or because I was fired.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you start getting, I think, like a parade of official documents, I think that the attitude should change, but it didn't.
Sure.
And there was, and I think, and I'm not saying that this is how you would be, but I do think that what you said allows for that slippery slope for the people like who did what to me to do that.
It's very,
because
yeah.
it's that same kind of attitude of like, well, was it something you could prevent? Because if it is, then this is your fault, not ours or
Right.
another situation.
Yeah.
And because some people had clearly decided that what I was going through was preventable by me,
Yeah.
that I was received very poorly.
It
and
really,
because of that.
comes down to communication of conditions, and if conditions change to be communicated with. Problem is, some people don't accept that, and it's what sucks is that like when it comes to running a business, It's very
Uh-huh.
tricky by saying, and some people really just need to say, if you don't think you can commit to this, then we can't have you around. Because some businesses are like that. Some will say, if this is not something that you can do and we need this reliability,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but the business also needs to communicate that instead of like doing like this weird sort of passive aggressive kind of
Yeah, because like
dance.
there's legalities involved when it comes to like discriminate against someone with a
Yeah,
disability, which technically epilepsy is. Like
sure,
you can't fire someone for the reason being you're epileptic.
right.
Like that's illegal,
Hmm.
which it should be. But
Yeah, yeah,
what it
absolutely, absolutely.
ultimately like was coming down to was that that's what they were pissed off about, and like
Yeah,
my the head of my graduate department also tried to get me kicked out of grad school
yeah,
essentially because I have epilepsy, because it was I was not cut out for graduate school
hmm,
because there was a condition of me having epilepsy that needed to be worked around, and not by me but by
yeah,
their patients.
yeah,
And like the head of the graduate department, the head of the school, the graduate school, not the graduate music school, like
hmm,
showed up and told them all to piss off. And was like, no, she's fine. You can't do that.
right.
But like the fact that that meeting ever happened, I think is very indicative of a mindset that people have about whether like we can be the gatekeepers of someone
Yeah,
else's decisions.
right.
Like one of the things that started causing like me to be in such a bad place once I even moved home was the idea that I'd spent years allowing other people to tell me what my priorities were and
Yeah,
not accepting that I can set those. I get to set
that's
my
all up to you.
priorities.
All up to you.
Period. I'm
Yeah.
obligated to no one else's set of priorities. I'm only obligated to mine. And that I'd spent so many years being told what my priorities were supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, and that's not up to anybody but you.
Yeah.
You are your priorities. You get to set those. Josh says, "Man, it's hurtful when people don't understand or enter the, well, you just need to,
Yeah.
type mode. Well, you just need to. Well, yeah, if I just needed to, I would.
Yeah.
However,
The number of times I've heard, well, you just need to learn to manage your stress. It's like, I know.
yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you are not in that situation, you have no right to actually say, just do it like this, because that doesn't apply. It does not make sense. It is everybody's a different approach, different reactions, different responses.
Oh yeah.
And if it were simply that easy, people would do it.
Yeah.
If
Like,
it were
do you
that
think
simple.
I don't know that I need to manage my stress?
Correct.
I'm fairly positive I am more aware of that than you are.
Right,
and
yeah.
I don't appreciate you talking to me
Because
like I don't know.
you don't want this condition. You don't want these things to happen. If it were up
No.
to you, none of this would be even a talked about problem.
We talked about that earlier today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can't wait to have my life sort of back to normal.
Yeah. People think so many times that if you don't look sick, that you aren't.
God, yes.
Just don't wear makeup and people assume you're sick all the time, right?
Well, I started doing that a lot,
Because
like,
people-
because I just
yeah.
couldn't function.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
people were, I remember someone
People
saying,
really-
like, I had, and my mom can testify to this. There was one time, like in that summer, I had like a 4-hour long seizure, and
Uh-huh.
I woke up and thought it was April, and it was like July.
Oh man.
And because
yeah.
I lose memory
Mhm.
when I have seizures,
Right.
and I saw my trumpet professor actually, and he's not been one of these people for the most part during that period of time, because he came through on his way to like a summer camp up at Hummingbird, and he was just like, well, you don't look sick, like you look fine.
Is that how
I was
that
like,
works?
what does an epileptic person look like?
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
well, like a leper. Your
I
skin's
guess.
hanging off and your fingernails are dripping out of like cheese on pizza. Like it
Uh-huh.
looks really terrible when you have epilepsy, and since you don't look like that, you couldn't possibly be sick.
Yeah, like what does chronic illness look like, you know?
Yeah,
And I think some people have this expectation of what sick looks like,
yeah,
and the people who are chronically ill, you know, to some degree, don't look sick. Then they're faking or they're
you need to
lying,
just
or
put
it's
on
not
a
that
lot more
bad.
makeup or actually eat like a bunch of rotten food beforehand, so they finally believe you. And it's like, you know,
But that's really you know.
this doesn't need to be the
frustrating.
condition
Yeah.
under which you actually accept, you know, what is going on with me that you don't understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. What does
yeah,
a person with epilepsy look
yeah.
like?
I think the only thing that
They
you
look like a person.
should do is simply communicate with me so I know the conditions that you need to work optimally and to be aware of, so that way if something happens, I can help you.
Uh-huh.
Ideally, what my position as a boss is to supply you with what you need so that you can do the best you can.
You're
and if
already a
that's
better boss than most of the ones I
if
have.
that is to be understanding of certain conditions, that's the only thing I require of somebody, is to, so I know what you need.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I want to do. My position as a boss is to be able to supply you with what it is that you need to work at the fullest,
Yeah.
to your fullest, whatever your current fullest is. Maybe your fullest is
Yeah.
40%, maybe it's 100%. It might vary.
And I shouldn't be shocked that it was such an ordeal,
Yeah.
because I'd already been struggling a lot with the university not paying me for things.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
I was never a priority to be taken care of. So when I started to become a problem, it was
Yeah.
like too much to bear.
Baby girl says, Ariel, I love that you don't wear makeup all the time. It shows you're confident in yourself.
I mean, I stopped wearing makeup because I just couldn't put it on anymore. Like, I was just way too sick and I was tired and it was costing money for no reason. Like, it was just using my, expensive for sensitive skin makeup that I was like, why? And, I just got used to my face.
But you look outstanding either way, and of course I'll always emphasize and say that is whatever you choose to do to present yourself, I love because that's where you are. That's authentically you in that moment, and I like it all the time.
Yeah.
Whether we go out on the town and you're all made up, or I wake up right next to you, you look heavenly either way.
I don't, but I appreciate that.
I'm not even joking.
The only thing
I'm
I
not
think.
joking.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wanna.
The thing that I think I feel like being a woman is hard. But like what's tricky is like when you don't wear makeup a lot. When you wear makeup, people are like, "Oh, why are you dressed up?" It's like, because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like seems to not be an excuse. So then like when you wear makeup all the time, when you don't wear makeup, oh, what's wrong? Like you can't just be a person.
And it's weird because even like on a different level, that's being on the take because you're still demanding an answer or an explanation from somebody that they don't owe you. Yeah. Why do you have on makeup? You normally don't do that. Why do you not have on makeup? You normally don't do that. And it still becomes like you owe me an explanation. Even on like the tiniest, even innocuous level, it's still something that I think people don't understand that they're requesting is you're pinging for information that you don't really need. You don't need to explain it.
I actually was talking to Ray about this quite a bit yesterday. Was that like what was so, and it hit me like a ton of bricks when my friend just passed away. Like that it was someone I hadn't seen in since I left Las Cruces, but that when I left, I got so frustrated and like I huddled into myself for a while because I was tired of people being like, well, tell me about this, or what happened, or this and that, like needing that explanation so they could again judge if it was acceptable.
Right.
So I just assumed everybody was going to be on that hostile end, and I just started talking to no one.
It was already in the middle of
away.
A frustrating weekend, so like there's like emotions were running high for a variety of reasons, and that didn't help exactly.
What?
The weekend. You secluded yourself for almost 48 hours being angry and cranky.
Oh, this last weekend?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so I mean, it was already sort of on the tail of that.
Yeah.
It was like just one more thing to sort of add to like...
Yeah, I was actually talking about when I moved away from Las Cruces, but that's also true.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like this even just like a couple days ago, because as soon as you got this news, specifically, like it was a rough weekend, and then this hit like right afterwards.
And immediately I started feeling guilty for having not spoken to people for a while or never really given like a clear explanation about what had happened. And I started thinking about how many people and like that I know and that I care about a lot don't understand what happened a couple years ago because I just could not keep explaining myself. Like I felt like I'm sick should have been enough, but it wasn't. Yeah. And one of the things I talked with Ray about yesterday was like I had a nervous breakdown. Not like not hyperbolically, not I'm on Facebook and I'm having a bad day FML. Like I actually had a nervous breakdown. And because people throw that phrase around a lot, when you tell someone like I had a nervous breakdown, they think, oh, okay, well you're just being over emotional. But like I was like like everything hurt. Like my nerves were just fried. I couldn't get out of bed. And then my mom can attest to this. She remembers that time. Like I got back from my grandmother's funeral that summer and just crumpled in a ball in the hallway and sobbed. And my dad came by and was like, what's going on? I was like, don't make me leave. I just kept, I couldn't even stand. It was just like, I was, I had blood and like coming out of my digestive system and like I wrecked my body. Wow. Oh yeah. I was effed right when I could not go back to NMSU. Like my body was trashed.
Jeez.
Like, and people are like, oh well, you're just emotional. You need to control your emotions and your stress. It's like no, I had an actual nervous breakdown.
It's very simple to say when you don't understand because I have no idea what that's like. So not knowing what a nervous breakdown is or feels or even looks like, it would be very hard for me to identify any of that. But that's why it's important to listen to people, and it's important to take the time to understand that when somebody genuinely needs that kind of help, listen to that because I never knew. I have no idea, and so to hear this is extremely important for me and maybe some other people to know that like.
Yeah, when and it's hard though because people throw that phrase around constantly. Oh, I'm having a nervous breakdown. It's like, are you though? And you know that they're not.
Yeah,
like,
I'm so OCD. I arrange my DVDs.
Yeah, and then people with actual OCD don't get to like express themselves correctly or be believed correctly because people just throw it around like it means nothing.
It's not even a luxury of just like liking to be organized. It is like a nightmarish sort of mental prison. Like I have a friend who's legit OCD and he struggles like even playing video games.
It's like I have to click this 6 times.
Yeah,
were telling me about. He has to do it in like the exact order.
So
like
there's like a specific order in which everything like needs to be done. On top of that, everything is time stamped. So like there's a very specific and deliberate method to even enjoy a game. So it's hard to say how much it's even enjoyed by his standards because of how much focus needs to be gone into making sure it is presented appropriately all the way through.
Yeah.
And terminology like that, I think really it's easy to sort of forget that some of these terms sound harmless when in reality
and it does real harm when we change the language around some illness.
Yeah, diminishing the meaning of things. Sure.
Yeah, so I have a couple things to say.
Yes.
First, I saw my mom's comment where she says, just like the lady at Keller's who yelled at Bo for parking in a handicapped space when he was driving.
Yeah, you told me this story, yeah.
Sick. So my mom and I actually, like, we had an appointment at the cancer center, or the like breast imaging cancer place, because my mom has had breast cancer before, so she has to go through like extensive like rescans every year to make sure it doesn't come back, and it takes a lot out of her because she has MS and she's had cancer and like so she wears out, and she has a handicap placard.
Right.
This was like a couple days before Thanksgiving last year, 2016.
Yeah.
And my brother picked us up from the breast imaging center and took us to go buy a turkey and parked in the handicap space, helped my mom out of the car. Well, this woman, like, as he's going to help my mom get out of the car, like, this woman who also looks perfectly able-bodied, like, runs up to the car and starts screaming at my brother about how he's not handicapped and that's a handicap spot or whatever. And it's like, a lot of people who are handicapped don't drive themselves.
True.
And he's like about to open the door for my mom, and he's like, "You're insane."
Yeah.
Like, and just like takes her, and we went inside, and it was like the idea was that because he didn't look handicapped, or my mom didn't look handicapped.
Yeah.
Like, you have to look a certain way. There was a handicap placard, in the thing in the car. She could have seen, like, he's not parking illegally. Yeah. But, like, she wanted that space. It was inconvenient to her.
Yeah.
And so she was going to make that snap judgment about whether or not it was acceptable for him to use that parking space. And
it's hard because
people need to cut that shit out.
I see like a lot of people park in the handicap spot when they're waiting for a pizza, and I will always look at their car and see if you have a placard, if you have like the thing on the back of your license plate. I'm always like, that's all it takes. And the reason I get like upset about like the potential of somebody not doing it is because I don't want to be upset. If you're handicapped, by all means, use a spot. But I've had people simply park there before in handicapped spots, and my mom, who actually has the handicap, has to park like far away in a regular spot because somebody just is waiting for a pizza.
That's what I was.
That's what drives me nuts.
I wanted to say is like that is that like I saw this news thing the other day about service animals where it was talking about people, because you can just buy like a jacket for your dog that says service animal, even if they're not a trained service animal.
Yeah.
And it was talking about how that's a severe detriment to the community of people who legitimately need them and have expensive trained service animals. And like one of the ladies in the news clip was a lady who had like a kind of a guide dog. She wasn't completely blind, but like she was like she could like I don't know the name of this disease, so I don't want to like screw it up. But like she wasn't stable, like she couldn't stabilize her body, so the dog had this like big rig like attached to it to help her walk, and he would guide her. And she was saying that like if she goes like to the grocery store in with her dog and there's like she sees like a dog in a shopping cart with a service jacket on, like she can't go in because she like her dog she just can't shop and she can't get her groceries or what she needs because her service dog will get barked at, has been bit before, has been like, because other people's dogs that aren't actually trained service animals are just able to go wherever with them. Because the current state of affairs and laws in our country is that you don't have to provide documentation. You can just claim that it's a service animal and you can't do anything about it.
That's tricky.
Yeah. And so people are taking advantage. People who don't need service animals and who don't have service animals are taking advantage of that, causing it so that the people who actually need them and who actually suffer from these problems can't use them correctly.
Right.
And while it's kind of tangential from like handicap placards or people using language in an incorrect way, it's the same kind of thing. Like when you start to take what doesn't belong to you or doesn't apply to you, it changes the world, like the world that people who that does apply to have to live in. Right.
The perception is skewed, and then the actuality for people who struggle with it becomes sort of like dampened. So Ray actually says, I had a period where I was consistently sick in elementary school and was never believed. They even called CPS on my mom. They just thought I didn't like school. Man. And Josh says, I've seen it in front of Domino's before, referring to the handicap, and follows up with, same here to Ray, but no CPS for me. I had some major digestive issues and was out sometimes multiple times per week. Cause was never determined in middle school. And
yeah, my senior year in high school that happened. So I started having seizures probably around that period of time. I fell down a staircase at El Dorado High School and like screwed up my neck
Right,
because
remember you
I had
mentioning
a,
that, yeah.
From what we know now, because I had a seizure, but at the time they're like, oh, let's put you on beta blockers. Let's check all your blood sugar. And like people, they couldn't figure out what it was, and I missed a ton of school. And absolutely, like a bunch of my teachers and like the school and administration from the state started contacting my parents and were like, why is she not in school? Like not believing that. Well, my mom would call every morning and be like, Ariel can't go in.
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky when, all they see is, oh, you're not attending, you must be up to something weird.
Yeah, there's our country has this weird thing about being sick. Ready for the Marxist rant on sick days.
Sure.
Like the fact that we will use the phrase, I don't have the luxury to be sick. Heavy air quotes on that. Like people will say that because being sick is considered a luxury in this company. Well,
Yeah, right. At this point, yeah.
In this country.
Yeah.
It's truly to the point where like people will say, I don't have the luxury of being sick. I can't miss work. They won't let me. It doesn't matter if I'm sick. This is why the flu spread so badly this year, because people go to school and work no matter how sick they are because they can't afford the time off.
Yeah.
They can't miss.
Yeah.
And so like diseases spread and people get like, it's awful.
Yeah. Josh even says, this is gross, but they believed me when I vomited uncontrollably in the nurse's office.
Oh no.
And it sucks when it has to get to the point where it's like, if you're not going to believe me, my body's going to prove it. I don't want this to happen, but something's happening, you know? Rita says, it's an example of don't judge people by how they look. That person may just not have enough spoons to get through the store.
Yeah.
And
like, what if that person has fibromyalgia or something? Like, they're not going to look like a certain way. I have a friend who has fibromyalgia, and she has a wheelchair that she does not always use.
Right.
And she's gotten called out a lot by it because she can walk, but she has to use the wheelchair sometimes because it's too painful.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, well, you don't need a wheelchair. You're not wheelchair bound. Blah, blah. And it's just like, you don't get to say that. Like, what does sickness look like?
Right. Yeah. I'm in perfectly good health. Why can't you? And it's a really
you look like me
silly
and
position.
I'm not sick, so...
Ray says, I think this culture is even worse in Japan, though, because if you're not dead or dying, you have to participate. And I remember being in Japan, this is probably 2004, with a friend of mine, and we were walking down the street, and a salaryman basically just collapsed in the middle of the road because they exhaust themselves to the point of, like, passing out. And people didn't rush around to help him. People just walked around him because it was so standard. It was so commonplace that it was simply like, this is what happens. This is actually part of it.
Yeah, that's
this is
fucked
simply
up.
cultural, and it's a really freaky thing to think of that.
That's why like the suicide rate is so high.
Work themselves to death.
In Korea, the suicide rate is really high. So, although I'll admit, like, and it could just be the difference in university and like real life. I don't really know because I never like held that kind of job down in Korea. But when my grandfather died, I started missing, and like prior to his death and after, one of my classes that I had, which was my Korean language class, was at that exact time of day where like when I was able to Skype with my family, and so I just kept missing class. But I sent emails to my professors and I was like, this is what's going on, this is where I'm at, this is what's happening, and then they just started like meeting with me privately other times of the week. They're like, that's fine, take care of it. Like they understood like the family as a priority.
Sure.
Whereas when my grandmother died while I was working at the university, I had multiple professors tell me that like, oh, it's just your grandma. Like, I shouldn't have even left for the funeral because I had obligations for rehearsals and stuff. And it's like, eat a...
Yeah.
That.
You can say dick.
Eat a dick.
Yeah, you're allowed to. Hey, Kevin's here. Yeah. Japanese composer for video games, Yasunori Mitsuda, is the one who wrote basically the music for Chrono Trigger, mostly. And Josh actually points out that he had horrible ulcers, so at times he had to step away, and your good old friend Uematsu...
We're not good old friends. We
you
just know
worked
each other.
together. You monster. I'm still so... like every time I talk to anybody, even Tasha stopped by the store yesterday, and we were both just sort of like, about how you're just like nonchalantly working with our favorite composer.
I had no perspective, though. I had never played Final Fantasy. I didn't know any of his music. I wasn't familiar with any of it. He was just this like kooky old man. I'm sorry.
That's all. That's funny too, because for us, this is like he literally composed our childhoods, and to you, just go like, oh,
it's
that's
just
some
guy.
weird old guy that I worked with.
Yeah, he likes the Beatles a lot.
But that's what's amazing about the difference in perspective.
Yeah.
Either way, Uematsu actually came in and helped write the rest of the soundtrack, but also did so by composing in the style of Mitsuda.
Yeah.
So it was like that's also fairly incredible. Is to be able to emulate this dude's style. Super, super impressive.
And yes, Mom, that was when Graham died.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
That sucked.
You guys, I found out the sex of mine and Cassidy's baby. You want to know?
I do.
I do too. Yeah.
Because you told us what you were gonna name it if it was a girl or boy, so now I want to know.
Bart if it was a girl, and Clint if it was a boy.
All right, Kevin, don't listen to him.
Bart's a unisex name. Bartla.
I hate you.
What? All right, whatever. What would you name a little girl?
I don't know anything other than that.
Cranky Kong.
No.
Why
It's
not?
a boy.
Yeah, boy.
So that's the Leviathan, right? Like you're gonna name. That's what you're gonna name him. I remember.
Leviathan? That's a good name. The Destroyer of the Sea?
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
said they were gonna call him Levi, but have his name actually be Leviathan. I listened when Kevin talks. Did you remember that?
No.
I did.
Here's what I love. Here's what I love is you expect me to remember things, knowing full well that within an hour of hearing something I might not remember, and you still expect me to remember things. It's great.
Yes, I do.
I've-
I want you to try.
I do try.
Yeah, see?
That's the
learn
struggle.
On the first name. The middle name will be Leviathan for sure. Just
Oh, middle
Levi for
name.
sure.
Middle name.
When Kevin told us the first time, he said that was going to be his name.
Yeah.
He says Torn.
Like a Viking name, Torn? Torn? TJORN? Torn?
Torn? I don't think that's a name. I don't think you can put the T and the J together.
You can.
I mean, but like, okay.
You can do whatever you want. You can name him ABXY ampersand $. If you wanted to.
That's why you're not allowed to have children.
What's somewhere down the road, we're
I
probably
know.
gonna have a kid, and it's gonna have the most wicked, probably middle name. 'Cause
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were at the gym and you kept like berating me. You were on the treadmill next to me and you're like, "What if we had this name?" And you're like, "If we have a daughter, can we name her Donkey Kong?" And like I saw a woman like on the ellipticals in front of us like turn around. I was like judging that situation. She was like, "These poor people, this poor girl. She probably thought I was pregnant." And like you were just trying, you know, like.
this poor girl has a man who loves her so much that he wants to name their daughter Donkey Kong, and she won't let him. What kind of sadness does she have in her life to disallow such a perfect scenario?
No, that's not what she thought. And
That's
then
exactly-
you said we should name a girl Dracul. like you had all these things lined up. I remember. Huh.
Do not.
Torin is a great name.
Torn is a great name.
It's from Tolkien. I don't know why I forgot that name all of a sudden. Yeah, see, I care. Kevin says, "It's all good, John. Ariel cares. I see where we stand." The actual truth is I just have a better memory.
Yeah, you do. That's all there is to it. I do not have a great memory. My short term is very bad.
Yeah. Oh, so my mom is mentioning, like, you can name people whatever you want, but I went to college with a girl whose name was Shathade, and she spelled it, she changed this, once she was legal, she changed the spelling of her name.
That's probably a good idea because it's written out shithead.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, and she changed it to, like, it was like SHYTH, like, AY, I don't remember how, like
Something-
ADE or something, I don't remember. Like, she
something
changed
less-
the spelling, though, so it looked like it was just said Shathade.
Right on.
Which is kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. The name itself is inherently bad, but it's
yeah,
it's
it was
one of
spelled
those-
shithead. Like,
Yeah.
Well, her parents though were like,
Shitheads.
well, yes.
Apparently.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so she was raised by her grandparents though. Like her
Okay.
parents were like horrible,
Gotcha.
fuck off people.
Yeah. You mean for coughs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's and I never, of course, really want to subject a child to like that kind of like a
Yeah.
torment. I've also told you that I want to name a child Rocksteady. Call him Rock for short.
Yeah. I don't know if I like it, but
Rock.
I don't hate
like
it.
Rocky.
Like I don't hate it.
Yeah, it was an incident. His real name was Robert, but
Yeah.
like. Rock.
Yeah, I
Rocksteady.
just think though, like, I don't mean this as an insult, but you have
If
a
I
very,
get 2
like,
likes, we get to name our kid Rocksteady.
That is not true. No, because you have enough crazy people that you'll get a ton just out of like the shits and giggles of it. But like, so something like I don't mean this as like an offensive thing, but like you have a very normal name.
Oh yeah, I've got
like
the
a
most
very
standard name.
Standard
It's
name.
very biblical. Jonathan Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like my
Straightforward.
siblings and I really don't. Like we have decently normal names, but like also, from when we were born, they're a little strange. Like my poor sister, her name is Elisha, Elysia,
Mhm.
and like her whole life has been just plagued by people not being able to say her
Mispronounced,
name
I'm sure.
or
Yeah.
like spelling it wrong later. And like I used to get made fun of for my name. like really badly. And I feel like
Fuck
we yeah, I know.
Incidentally, we're renaming us.
No, we're not. You can rename yourself.
Someone already renamed us.
I know that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But yeah, I used to get like really like incessantly teased as a kid for my name, and that's something that I think about because it happened to me. Like, so I think like if you're gonna name a child something different or strange, like is it something that they're gonna get made fun of or teased for?
Mm-hmm.
And
I even got my name made fun of all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I had a friend. Actually, we're really good friends on Facebook now. We've known each other since like 3rd grade, but we used to make fun of each other's names constantly, just because we were shitty kids and shitty kids look for things to do.
But like not actual bullying though, right?
No, we were bullying each other. Like we weren't friends at the time. We've known each other a long time. We used to bully each other. His name was Steven. And I used to call him Step Hen, Step on the Hen. He used to call me G.I. John, and like it was like a whole mess of like really crappy insults because there's no great way to insult each other with those names, but we still did it.
But you weren't insulting each other because of your names. You were probably insulting each other for something else, and
all I can think of
is like a byproduct.
All I can think of is that we insulted each other's names a lot.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have like crowds of people in elementary school like follow me around and like berate me like, "Where's your flounder? Where's your fucking crab, Ariel?" Like all the time, and like be really nasty and shitty about it. And I've never been the kind of person that like is affected really by bullying, but I know some people who are.
Right.
And that was like it was like targeted bullying about the fact that I had the same name as the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
So it was like something that they could be nasty about.
Yeah.
As a reason to treat someone poorly. So I think about that sometimes. I think about like I wouldn't, not every kid is going to be as laissez-faire, very just sort of bizarre and out there as I was as a kid. So. And just be able to be like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, some kids will be fine, some kids won't,
are not
going
to be fine with that, and like...
That's why Donkey Kong is sort of like the good equalizers, because everybody likes Donkey Kong.
I hate Donkey Kong!
You like the original Donkey Kong, you just don't like the newer Donkey Kong.
That's correct.
I'm referring to the original. So we'll name the original Donkey Kong. Speaking of...
Yeah, see, Freakin' Rican. Like he said,
Freakin' Rican.
Well, my best friend's last name is Pickett, and she always got called Becca Pick Your Nose.
Pick Your Nose.
Yeah.
Ray says my legal last name is Knuckles, which was rough. All the Sonic jokes, Sonic and Knuckles. G.I. John is kind of cool, though. And yeah, I mean, in retrospect, like, I actually don't care. Like, it's very difficult to genuinely insult me because I'll roll with pretty much whatever. So I don't get bothered by stuff like that anymore. But, when you're a kid, when you're in middle school, elementary school...
Yeah, when you're a little kid, it's like... And it can really, like, shape the way you understand the world, so...
For some, it continues to this day. Many have failed at pronouncing my last name. I pronounce his if it's a Japanese last name, and so
Sosi?
it's...
Is that how you say it, right?
Sosi.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
I always said Sosi because the Japanese pronunciation of the tsu. But at this point, though, I've learned to laugh it off. And also, people never say Sakura right. It's always Sakura, Sakuro, Sagura, like, it, No Donkey Kong. Put your foot down on that one.
I am.
Absolutely.
My foot is down.
Making sure that Donkey Kong... I stand firmly by this, and I appreciate your support.
Are you going to have a baby by
I'm going to
yourself?
have a campaign manager all ready to back me up on this.
I maintain. Are you going to have a kid by yourself? Are you going to carry a child?
Am I going to gestate? Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, then if you do that, then I suppose it's ultimately...
Have you seen the movie Junior?
No.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he has a baby.
I know the movie. I just have never watched it.
Oh, there you go.
I have no desire to watch a pregnant Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
That's just... I'm not into Arnold like you are.
No one's into Arnold like I am. All right, let's see. For some reason, Knuckles doesn't work in people's brains, and they get nickels all the time. Let's see. The last few weeks have been hell for us, says Kevin.
Is she having a difficult pregnancy, or... I don't understand.
There's Leviathan. He's kicking around, splashing water everywhere.
Yeah, it's the
when the water breaks, it's gonna be whoosh, just
a tsunami.
A tsunami in the wherever you are. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Mom, I don't understand what you mean.
I am. That's God's name. I am the great I am. The Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end. Speaking of, when I was working at GameStop, I might have told you this. I was working at GameStop back in 2004, and I was hanging out with my manager Mike, and we were just selling games and doing whatever. We had one customer in the store. It was like this black dude with his little kid, and he's buying like some PS2 games, and his kid's over on like the kiosk playing something, and like they're finishing checking out, and he goes, "Yo, the original, the original," and both Mike and I were like, "What?"
Yeah, his kid's name was.
And his kid's name was actually the original.
That's funny.
Yep.
My dad used to work with a guy whose name was Richard Head.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I am into Arnold.
I don't know. Oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's right. Yes, she is. She is very into Arnold
Woman of
Schwarzenegger.
taste.
She would like, when I was younger, even she'd like turn on Terminator and like rewind and like play and rewind, like just to see the scene where you can see his naked butt.
Arnold?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just pause it.
Yeah, she did that. Like,
All you gotta do is just pause it. Yeah, it'll take care of the whole thing. You don't have to rewind it. Cassidy's family has a history of Fragile X syndrome, and so we're waiting for the results to see if she's a carrier for the trait. The main symptom of Fragile X is deep autism, so that's something we're
Yikes.
probably looking out for. Yeah, that's...
That must be scary as a parent.
Sure,
Like, to
absolutely.
have that as a risk. And not because there's anything wrong with having autism, but
Right.
like it's a lot of work.
It still becomes like something you have to take into account with, the new beginning that you're sort of coming into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's something, because you got to start preparing for it and making sure that you have all the right resources to take care of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Scary.
If Arnold Schwarzenegger just birthed your baby, it'd be good. That's something we had to face. We just got word today that she is not a carrier.
Oh,
He has
thank
just as good of a
God.
chance of being neurotypical as any other kids. The best birthday present I could ask for.
No kidding.
Dude, absolutely.
Congratulations.
And a happy birthday.
Yeah. Is your birthday today?
I don't know. I'm a terrible friend.
I also. But I don't go on social media a lot. Like,
I'm really bad about people's birthdays. It's all happenstance. The only reason I don't even check people's birthdays on there. I only notice it's somebody's birthday if somebody else wishes them happy birthday. And I go, oh, cool. Or they say, hey,
tomorrow's
it's my
birthday.
birthday. Okay.
all right. Well, I'm gonna sing to you anyway. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long.
That's pretty long. It could be a lot shorter.
I'm not here for your criticism.
It's not good. Constructive feedback.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's my song. I sing that to
Is
people.
it yours? Son?
It is now.
Good. Make it yours.
Yeah, so my mom says when she was pregnant with my sister Alicia, we found out that she could be a carrier of muscular dystrophy.
Very
So
stressful time, sure.
My cousin, her sister's son, Devin, died because he had muscular dystrophy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really hard on my Aunt Barbara. My Aunt Barbara had a nervous breakdown.
I
Actually,
can imagine after something like that.
Because like she also was like having problems with her husband at the time, and
I
it
actually
was
can't
like
even begin to
all
imagine.
together.
Really.
Like,
Yeah.
after she lost Dev.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's scary. I can't imagine. And like, so my mother has multiple sclerosis, which is why I have celiac disease,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an autoimmune. It's like it's an inherited. It's like you inherit autoimmune diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops.
Well,
Yeah.
there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out.
Yeah. I feel really lucky because I could have MS and I don't.
Mm-hmm. My friend Sarah
Well,
that I went to high
thanks,
school
Julia.
with has MS. I don't think you met her. I saw her at a movie when you were in the bathroom.
Oh, I met her.
Very briefly, blonde girl?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's really good friends of the girl that we adopted Freya from. Darcy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You told me that. You told me that.
Yeah, absolutely. She's taking care of Devin and her husband that had LG. Lou Gehrig's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember she showed up at our house. Like, she came after Della died, like, she came to Albuquerque. I was really young, though.
Mm.
And she was not well. Like, she'd lost a ton of weight, and she was just not well. My mom can, of course, talk more about that than I can, but I do remember that. Like, I remember people saying at the time, like, oh, she's had a nervous breakdown. Right. And I'm actually glad that was, like, imprinted in me young, that, like, that's a real thing that can happen.
Sure.
And it's not just, oh, I'm stressed out. Making it full circle.
I see. Just
it was
knows
before he died. Okay. I was young. So my memories of that are a little fuzzy.
Bad memories. Can't retain. That's my life every day.
I know.
Actually, sometimes to the point of stress. And this is actually sort of going full circle, why it can be difficult for me to even plan out events or time management with people. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch the first part of this podcast, my computer decided to restart itself and update in the middle of the podcast. So I'd go check out part 1 as well, because there's some really good discussion happening right before we were really interrupted by a computer who thought that his time was more important than mine. So...
How apropos.
Yeah, right? But having a bad memory actually can make it really difficult to manage my time, and so I've been really actively working on trying to use my calendar function in the phone to make sure that everything is put in date-wise properly, so I can look at it and go, oh yes, there is this event coming up this weekend, or there's somebody's birthday, or whatever's happening. I'm really trying to focus on do that.
I'm not good at
doing
using
that.
it like on a phone, but like when I have like a calendar I can tack to the wall and write on, like I'm a lot better. I used to have one somewhere, it might even be over there or somewhere. Like I might have put it away. Like it was a whiteboard calendar that I used to keep in my
good.
house.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I used to keep that on the wall and like fill it out every month and on each day, like right when I had gigs or when I had to get certain things accomplished or turned in or like done. And it was a lot easier for me to keep things together. But something about it being on the phone, like I just can't. I just don't. It doesn't work for like my like computation.
Before you had a lot of gigs, did you just have a lot of megabytes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they call
Like a rehearsal?
concerts and rehearsals.
Okay, just
for
megs.
young people, practice sessions.
Megs. I'm lost on my whiteboard.
Kilobytes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I had. It was like my mom. You see my mom's. It's like the.
That's the one where I drew my turkey.
Yeah, it's still there.
Turkey John for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And it wasn't for Thanksgiving, but it was. Okay.
No, I don't know. I'm asking you. You're gonna remember more than I
No,
will.
it was because you had like it was in like April or like really early on when you were dating, and
feels.
like you wrote a bunch of random things on my mom's like shopping list, and then she wrote a message underneath to you that was like, "Dang it, John, you're such a turkey! Like you startled me. I thought we lost all these groceries."
Right.
And so then you just responded by drawing a turkey with your face on it.
That's fair. Or a turkey with a goatee and glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Still had a beak and a waddle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a good memory on a whole, but like sometimes I just don't remember things.
That's very human.
Yeah.
Your memory is overall just much better than mine. I also remember a lot of things that I don't necessarily need to remember, and it sucks because I want to remember the important things, and sometimes I forget.
I have this thing where like I have a really good long-term memory and not a great short-term memory, and sometimes like something that will have happened to like or been said or been talked about like in a short like that short period of time, I'll remember really well a month later, but I will consistently forget like in that time period around it. It's kind of strange. I think that's part of why I have such vivid dreams all the time is because I have a really good like system for long-term memory.
You remember when I like spilled my soda on the carpet and I looked up at you and cried?
That never happened.
That you're aware of?
No, it didn't. You never spilled soda on the carpet.
That.
It's not in front of me.
That's proud of you. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I promise you I spilled soda on the carpet.
Not in front of me.
Maybe behind you.
I require an exo brain.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like an extra like a 4 terabyte like RAM expansion. That's a lot of RAM, by the way. Holy butts! You could launch rockets. That'd be really useful, by the way.
Launch a rocket?
Well, it would be if you needed to send something to like the moon.
Yeah, I want to visit the moon.
Send yourself.
I used to play these gigs. This is a complete tangent, but I feel like sharing.
Okay.
With the group called ISPCS, and you can look that up, and it's like I don't remember exactly what it stands for the acronym, but it's like the new like commercial space station.
Yeah.
Outside Alamogordo or whatever. And every October they would have these big conferences, and I would go in and play in the morning. That's like their like bugle call and all that sort of thing, and then I would get to just attend the conference because I was there, so they would feed me and I'd learn all about space stuff. And there were some times where like I distinctly remember sitting in like a room full of like brilliant scientists and incredibly rich people, and like the lady in charge of the company would like come out in her like pretty skirt suit and onto the microphone, and she would talk about with like this slideshow with like the future of space travel. And I remember being like, this is the scene you see at the beginning of a movie about the end of the world.
True.
Or like an alien invasion or something. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in that scene.
That's it. It's
like
gonna happen to me.
before something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Like and
No
but
banquet is this nice.
Yeah, they would like charge. You can pay if you're really just stupidly wealthy to put your watch on the moon, and it's like $2 million or something, and have it come back to you, and like you can say this went to the moon. That's a thing that they have.
I feel that's unnecessary. I'd rather eat like food like infused with like gold flakes that makes my poop sparkle.
You don't drink alcohol. I think the Goldschlager is this like cinnamony liqueur that has gold flakes in the bottom.
Yeah, I want it to be like a candy bar or like a spaghetti or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than send something to the moon.
Oh, like that pizza. I think I showed that to
Gold
you.
pizza?
Yeah, it's like a pizza that has like truffle on it and like gold flakes, and I'll show you. Like I don't know, some stupid like $300 pizza.
This is such an interesting time to be alive. It's like hundreds of years ago, people simply tried their best to do anything to live, just so they could not die. And now we're like, oh, I'm so alive that I'm just gonna
put
gold in my caca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold.
Which is kind of impressive because that's the future I envision. Because then you can extract the gold from the poop and do it again and again. That's called recycling.
I think because gold is this pizza costs $2,000. I'll show it to you.
Covered in real
It has
gold.
real
Okay.
gold on it. So I think that gold is such a soft metal that it will actually like deteriorate in your digestive system. Like you can't just pick it out of. Like I think your stomach acid is going to be too strong.
That's
for
the
gold.
challenge. It's kind of like dissecting an owl pellet. It becomes more difficult.
I don't think it actually would show up in your poop.
You have to
I think
melt
that
down
your
your
body would actually try to digest it. And
You have
it
to melt
would
down your
digest
stomach.
it, I think. I don't know. I don't actually know.
I have no idea.
I
I have
think.
no idea.
I feel like because gold
Well, then
is
eat like a gold nugget.
because like solid gold is like soft. Like you
That's
can
true.
squash it. Like
Yeah.
I think that your body could destroy that.
Just line your stomach with gold and you can eat whatever you want.
Weird.
Yes. How was the cake?
We have not tried it yet.
Are we going to do that after this?
Yeah. I made poppy seed cake with my mom today.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say, like, the last couple of days, my mom has been just, like, the coolest person. It's been really great.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a really good time hanging out with her and just,
Yeah.
like, being around her.
Could show up in your toenails. They're actually bits of gold in your toenails.
There are bits of gold in your toenails, or, like, there
There-
could be if you ate gold.
There are now.
Weird. I don't think my toenails have gold in them.
I don't know why the comment came up on the phone and not up on the thing up there.
Who said that?
Jonathan. I'm wondering, though, if there's any messages that we ended up missing that may have appeared exclusively on the screen and not up there. I hope not. So if anything's gone ignored, super sorry because... Oh, there it is. Yes, there's actually gold in your toenails.
Weird. Like, we are partially made of gold.
Mm.
Huh. Not my toenails. They are not... I don't have nice looking feet.
Your feet look fine. Your feet
I
has...
don't think so.
What are they supposed to look like?
No, I mean, I don't mean, like, I don't really think about feet that much, but, like, I have, really bad calluses and, like, gross stuff on my feet. Because I walk around barefoot all the time. I don't like to wear shoes.
Eat more gold. John wants cake. I do.
Yeah.
So speaking
Poppy
of,
seed cake.
we've been doing this for about an hour and a half, which has been fantastic. I'm really happy that we got a chance to do this. I'm sad because I literally just bought a brand new camera just for the podcast tonight, only for us to not really use it for the majority of the evening. We'll use it more next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know. Something will come up, I'm sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll have something. But yeah, if you guys get a chance, go back and listen to the first part of the podcast if you weren't with us at that point. It was a really good conversation, which segues kind of into this with like a weird 15-minute break because
the computer
the computer reset. It's really dumb. But yeah, thank all you guys for watching us and for contributing and conversation. That's the best part. My favorite part of this is not simply just talking, but like having like an open, large conversation and dialogue with everybody who...
I like that we get distracted sometimes because of the comments.
It's important.
Like,
I think that's the best part of it is, you know, you and I have a good, you know, flow going, but like this is the meat and potatoes of it, is getting a chance for people to put in their 2 cents and, you know, agree or disagree or, you know, ask questions or contribute, you know, all of it's great.
Yeah,
that's the
I
best
mean,
part.
I live with you. I can talk to you anytime. I don't get to talk with you and all these other people.
Yeah, I don't live with any of these other people.
You live with Larry.
Is he a person?
Yeah, and he's been typing.
What is he under your mom's name? This is
Yeah.
his nom de plume.
That's Larry telling you.
Posing as your mother.
John wants cake. That was Larry. Was like, oh, I want
He
cake.
knows an awful lot about life before we met. Yeah, he did some digging. All right.
Yeah, he's, you know, I think that if any of our cats is, like, not a cat, it's Larry.
We discussed this early on
yeah,
as well,
that
too.
he's an
Some sort of
alien,
weird-
like, inside a robot cat suit.
That makes sense for all cats, like, a lot more than cats existing, you know? Yeah.
See, Larry doesn't get... It's Larry. That's not my mom, that's Larry.
That's true.
Larry's
Okay.
like, hey, I want some cake.
That's-
No, you know, he doesn't want cake. Like, he thinks he wants cake, and he wants to, like, come
wants-
after you and try and take it from you because you want it. He wants to smell
He
it,
wants
and
to
then
look
he'll
at it. Yeah, sort of sideways. Yeah. And then you move the plate out in front of him, he just keeps staring.
He just
Yeah.
takes 10 seconds to catch
Dude,
up.
hold on a second. I just thought of something. This makes a lot more sense now. It doesn't make any sense really, but it makes more sense. Is I think Larry exists in a time where time does not pass. Time is constant. Like it's an always thing. So just because in our timeline we move the cake away, Larry continues to see it because he's not thinking of it as past or future. It's just constant. Time is compressed for him.
That doesn't make any sense. Time
Then
doesn't
explain-
actually exist.
Exactly.
Like, time is not real, even for us though. Like
Right.
it's simply
So-
like a thing that we use to quantify or explain our surroundings, but time isn't actually real. The only thing that ever exists is right now. Like
Mhm.
past and present, they're not real.
This is why Larry sees all things constantly. Basically, Interstellar
Omniscient.
explains how
Larry
Larry
is God.
exists. Yeah, kind of. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Back to the homework. Thanks, Josh, for joining us. And thank you, Rita and Jonathan and Ray and Baby Girl and Marie and just Kevin and like everybody. And happy birthday tomorrow, Kevin. I'll wish you an actual happy birthday tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. It always means a lot to have you guys tune in. So hopefully the audio on this phone version actually wasn't too bad. So that way when I pull it for the website podcast in 2045, we can have it ready to listen to in a decent format. Okay. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the future. I'm glad it sounded good. Okay. We'll see you in the future, which is really the past, which is really right now. And until next time, wow. Thanks, guys.